Watching Grace Beverley, what did you think?
I honestly thought that was amazing. I think, especially coming from a full female team that I have at work, I think listening to someone in business was really inspiring to listen to. And yeah, she's great. I followed from the beginning, so yeah, I just thought she's great.
What's your biggest takeaway for you? If you had to pick one thing that she said?
I think the whole thing was really positive. I think just going for like your desire and your dream, really. I think whatever, like the sky's always the limit. So I think just believing in yourself and going for it, and yeah, you can do it.
She came across very much that you need to know yourself, didn't she?
Yeah.
That seemed to be a really important part of her message.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important to go into business anyway. I think knowing yourself, knowing your idea and believing in yourself is the way forward.
How important is the Leeds International Festival of Ideas for Leeds, do you think?
Oh, massive. I think I'm obviously from the Hoops. I think being a sponsor of the festival is really important, and I think it brings so much to Leeds. I think every year it just gets bigger and bigger, and it's just so exciting. And I think it just brings such a great conversation to the city, and I think it should be longer. It should be more days.
It must have felt really good to you to see a theatre full of young women.
Definitely.
As well.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that was very much the audience today.
Yeah. Even earlier, like walking through to the playhouse, there was surrounded by women. Like likewise to me, it was really nice to kind of be in a full room of conversation. I can have a safe space of just talking about how it is to be a woman in business and trying to be powerful. Like in a very dominated industry with men, it was really good, really great. Yeah.
So tell me, you've just been in the Grace Beverley event.
I have, yes.
What did you think? What are you taking away from
Very
it?
inspirational. She's made me see my faults, my weaknesses, but also where I'm going right in business, which was quite nice, really, because sometimes you need a bit of a pat on your back, or you need to feel that you can move forward, and it's very hard when you're on my business on my own, so I find it quite difficult. I don't have anybody to kind of soundboard off, and she was really good. I've learned quite a lot, and I've made lots and lots of notes to take away and move forward.
Yeah, she was very inspiring, wasn't
Yes,
she,
very.
to people? I think she also gave us a lot of facts and information, didn't she, as
Definitely,
well?
yes.
Will that help you?
That will really help. I've got a list of things that I need to Google, read up on, listen to. Like I say, she's very, very inspiring, and it's nice to see a young female doing well, and it makes me think, gosh, if I'd had another 20 years on me, I'd have been doing it differently.
I was going to say, as a woman in business around this area, how important is it for you that we've got events like this happening in
Very.
Leeds?
Incredibly. Yeah, like I say, I run my business on my own, so I do feel sometimes I'm out on a limb, and just to be in a group of other people, like-minded people, is massive for me. Definitely.
Well, here's hoping you take away those things, her productivity method, all her ideas, and you can apply them to your business.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Brian, you've just been in the event. How did you find it?
Really informative, actually. Well, from my point of view, and from my girlfriend's point of view, who's looking to build a business, and it was just really interesting to hear that perspective, and to be, it was. I suppose the interesting part was the stats that were coming out in terms of.
Were you shocked by some of the stats?
Yes, completely.
Because the stats were all about how hard it is for women to get finance.
Yes, exactly. And because my girlfriend comes at things from a women in music point of view, and it's a similar situation there. So there's a lot of parity with the problems that women in music are finding. So adding that, the investment side onto it. It compounds the issue, and the ethnic side of it as well.
Because of course that was brought up about how it's even harder if you are a woman of colour as well. And somebody asked a very good question, I thought, about, and also if you've got an accent from round here, does that make a difference?
No, exactly, and all those things compounded, really makes you think. Wow, how difficult is that going to make it? And it makes you frustrated and want to change it, especially from my perspective, being from white and having the privilege of all of those things in some respects. It makes you frustrated and think we need to even this up and make it better.
Does it galvanise you though? Because you started off by saying it was really inspiring. So despite all the challenges that she talked about, it's galvanised you, she's inspired you?
Yeah, definitely, because I want to help make a difference. Even though it's not directly affecting me, I feel frustrated, and I want to help make a difference. Yeah, in that respect, definitely.
How important is it to have conversations like this here in Leeds?
Oh, it's so important because it makes people realise that there isn't a different way, and there are, you know, chances, and we do need to make that change. Yeah, definitely. I would say it's so important, and it's really good that this has been put on. And I made a point of making sure that I got in early to get some tickets for a few events, because I really think it makes a difference. So
what else are you off to see?
I went to see Nile Rodgers yesterday, and then
did you love him?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Everyone's saying he was
really
just fantastic.
Good. Yeah, the stories were just brilliant, and they're just inspirational in the way he came across. And then Kate Adie and Stacey Dooley on Saturday as well.
Which will be.
That's another one that'll be.
You know, that is
really
another one. You know, Kate Adie's been on the front line of so many wars and disputes, and of course Stacey Dooley puts herself in there as well, doesn't she? So,
yeah, inspiring. I'm sure that's going to be as inspiring. Yeah.
So I just like when she got out from the Grace birthday event, and I think it was, some of it was very insightful, especially for, you know, it's very, you know, very women empowerment. Obviously, I'm obviously not a woman, but so it's very interesting, very insightful for me to be listening to how people, especially with there's a lady that she's of like a more ethnic minority sort of background. She popped up some interesting question about it, so it's very nice to see.
That was such a strong question, wasn't it? Because she was saying, you know, how hard, if it's hard for women, how extra hard is it if you're a woman of colour, if you've got a Leeds accent?
Yeah, and all that. So I think it's very insightful. So yeah, I learned a thing or two.
Great. What did you think about it?
I think as a woman, it's so interesting, and to be able to bring someone that's obviously got such a great following to such a local area is obviously amazing. And to see that in real life compared to listening to it on a podcast, I think is just moving and motivational.
Has it inspired you?
Definitely, yeah.
What takeaway are you taking from this? What's the one thing, if there's one or two things that you're taking from it?
I think not the relatability, it kind of it's like possible. And I think having someone there in person and the like breaking down from like looking at a screen to like seeing someone on a stage is like different, and especially for our generation, because I think a lot of the time we don't get out enough.
Right, and you've just seen people on screens.
Yeah.
How important is it for you that this happened here in Leeds and that we're hearing that message, you can do it here in Leeds?
So important. I mean, we've got a 10-minute chain here today, so to be able to take our team out and to motivate like a small business and to be involved in that conversation, I think is just so important. Not having to travel all the way down to London is, you know, great.
We're at the Grace Beverley event.
I was, yes.
Tell me, what if there's one thing you're taking away from it,
Yes.
what is that?
Okay, so I did make quite a few notes because I was like, wow, there's so much here that like I could take away. But I think importantly, it's to just keep going. I know it sounds
Are you in
kind of
business
redundant.
yourself?
Yes, so I've just left my full-time role, gone freelance.
Oh,
as
congratulations.
well. Thank you.
So you've made that decision.
Yeah, I've made that leap, and I think sometimes I get really kind of bogged down by the idea of it's not happening quick enough, and it's really scary and unsettling, and that insecurity, you know, it makes you have a bit of an identity crisis almost. But I've just kind of had to tell myself, and off the back of this talk, that it's okay, and you know, just be patient and keep going and keep working hard and keep making those networks and keep believing in yourself and connecting with others and having these conversations.
Because that was a very strong message that came through, that this thing takes time, and that she didn't necessarily set out on some of these courses, they kind of happened. And that they wouldn't have happened without each of them happening beforehand. It's almost like a process. And to be comfortable with yourself and comfortable with that process and comfortable with the fact it doesn't all happen overnight. Because I think sometimes it's dead easy to think these things just happen overnight, isn't it?
Totally. And it's so inspiring to hear people's stories from Grace's today. And I was at the Nile Rodgers one last night, and just taking all this advice and hearing everyone's unique journeys as well just makes you realise that you're on your own unique journey and things will just work out, and you just have to keep believing in that, and you know,
and follow your passion, don't you?
Exactly. And rejection is just redirection, and you know, there's so much out there to discover and learn, and you know, this is all part of it, is listening to these and talking to people. So yeah, it's really exciting, and I think just embracing that and not being so scared.
I mean, this festival is organised by the Business Improvement District, and I think they would love to hear the fact that you're set yourself up in business, and this is going to be really helping you too. And Nile Rodgers last night helping you too.
In the first few weeks, you know, being able to have accessed this is just so helpful. Because whenever I'm having those moments, I asked both Nile Rodgers last night and Grace Beverley today, luckily, about imposter syndrome, because in these first few few weeks, it's so prevalent to feel really unsettled.
What did Nile Rodgers say about imposter syndrome?
So he said to just constantly create, that no matter what you do, if you keep trying and you keep creating, everything is fixable.
Oh, fantastic.
And even if you do something that you think is bad, you can fix it later. He told about the times where he's fixed people's songs and made it into the magic that we know today. And it was so inspiring because it was just that reminder that even if you think something is bad, you know, there's always a way back and there's always more that you can do.
Was Grace Beverley?
I absolutely loved her. Like, she is so inspiring. I followed her for ages and I just thought she was magnificent today. She's so articulate, really empowering, you know, knows what she's talking about. So as a business owner locally, I was really chuffed to have the opportunity to see her in Leeds.
I was going to say, how important is it for you as a local business owner that we are able to have this kind of conversation right here in the Leeds Playhouse?
It's so important. Like, you know, when you own your own business, you're like in the detail all the time, you know, in the vortex of your laptop. It's so important to get out and get some inspiration and understand like what the trends are, what's going on, what the conversation is. And it was really nice to do that face to face with a whole room full of a lot of women, a lot of business owners, students. Like, it had a really nice feel to the event.
It did, didn't it? It had a lovely energy because it was, you know, a lot of women in that audience, a lot of people setting up their own business, thinking about doing that as well. If you're going to take away one or two things for your business, what will you take away from the event today?
Oh, I made loads of notes, actually. I think the first one was that productivity is a form of self-care. So actually,
that was a really powerful statement when she made that. You could see, couldn't you? People were really, I hadn't thought of it that way.
When you think of self-care, you think bubble baths, going for walks with the dog, but actually getting organised and doing the things that you've been putting off can actually really make a lot of headspace.
And I like what she said about the to-do list. Get rid of the to-do list of 100 things on it and just really concentrate on what you have to do.
Yeah, that was fab. And also just the kind of top tips around social media management, the 50, 30, 20 thing. I really appreciated that because I think, when you run your social media channels every day, you're constantly like, oh God, am I doing it right?
Yeah.
How does everyone else do this? So actually having a bit of a steer of content
from someone
areas.
with so many followers who is clearly so successful at it.
She is, and she's really engaging and really keeps it real. Like, she talked a lot about clarity and transparency in business communications, which is something that I'm really, a huge advocate for as well. So it was nice to just, I don't know, it gives you a bit of motivation, but also reassurance that actually not getting it too wrong.
And you're inspired.
Very much so.
You've just been in the event. Tell me about it. Are you inspired? Are you coming out buzzing?
I am. My brain's ticking over with things to do. It evokes such a sense of inspiration, doesn't it, with Grace herself? But I think there's a set type of person here in the sense of everyone's like-minded. So it was really nice just in the Q&A as well. So it was really like-minded people as well.
There was a lovely sense in the room, wasn't there, of lots of people who want to make things happen, who want to innovate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What will you take away from this? Because you've just set up your own business, haven't you?
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
Very scary. It's good timing, actually. I launch in a few weeks, which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
I study fashion styling. So originally the focus was to be on that, but I couldn't quite get past the first hurdle with it. In the sense of a lot of women don't have that confidence. Grace said something similar in there about,
she did.
It is just evoked in us as women that, we are lesser than, whether we realise it or not. And obviously we need to completely change the narrative. So there's no point styling someone or telling them what skirt to wear if there's no confidence there. So I'm now kind of switching it to go into confidence coaching. Bit of a rebrand.
Do you know what? I think that is really interesting because that was one of the things she talked about, very much so, that you can start out on one path with one idea. But if you are truly tied into your audience, you're truly tied into knowing what need and demand is, you may end up in somewhere different. And it's really interesting that that's happened for yourself.
Yeah, I went in guns a-blazing thinking this is what the people want, but then the feedback was actually, okay, we need to switch it up. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, congratulations and good luck. How about yourself? What if you're going to take one or two things away from what Grace said, what would be your takeaways?
I think after this, I'm feeling like I need to do a self-audit, kind of definitely self-reflection, and I think that turning inwards and seeing what you really like, setting boundaries, what works for you, what doesn't. Again, like she says, this whole balance of should you go into corporate career or solo entrepreneurship? That's what I'm trying to figure out. But I think now I'm in corporate, but I kind of just want to learn from using someone else's money, you know what I mean? Learning from other people as well, learning from the team.
And then you can make decisions yourself. Because that was
exactly.
another thing that came through very strongly. She was saying, know yourself.
Yes.
Know what's right for you. What's right for you might not be right for you. And to know yourself and know your limits. Let me just ask you one thing for, yourself starting up your new business, yourself working in corporate. How important is it for you that we have events, discussions like this happening in Leeds?
So important. I think in Leeds especially, like I moved from Manchester and I just moved to Leeds in April, and I always just felt like there wasn't that much going on in Leeds compared to Manchester. But I think I'm really grateful for like events like this, that I found it on Instagram as well, that people with the like-minded people can come together and kind of be in this kind of environment where people feel inspired. Thank you.
It's been really important.
Yeah.
Good luck with your business.
Thank you.
And good luck with your first experience of flexing and changing.
Yes.
As things go along, and it probably won't be your last.
See where I end up. Yeah. Thank you.
Charlotte, Ruby, you've just been in the event. What did you think? Are you inspired?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, and it's given me a lot of insight into like how I could set up my own business in future.
Are you thinking of setting one up?
Yes, potentially in like a media aspect.
Fantastic. Are you walking out now feeling really like I can do this?
Yeah, she gave me like a lot of tips and like more confidence, so it was really good.
She was very honest though about some of the challenges, wasn't she? But did that help still with the confidence?
Yeah, like when Grace spoke about how there's only a very small percentage of women that are involved in venture capital investment, and how she plans to sort of draw attention to that through her platform. That was really interesting.
Yeah, she's really fighting the fight, isn't
Yeah.
she? Ruby, what about yourself? You're in business yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, I have a
Tell us
small
a little bit
business,
about your business.
It's a small upcycle business. It's only very young, but
Yeah.
I think getting some insight into how she ran her business has been really, really useful.
What are going to be your main takeaways that she said today in relation to your business?
To be honest, a work-life balance. I feel like I've slowed, because I'm just starting, I've been putting everything into it, and I feel a lot of burnout. But listen to her talk about her struggles with that too, and then kind of ways that I can work that to be successful, but also have a social life as well.
Yeah, and have you come also really inspired? Are you leaving there inspired, thinking, I can do this?
Yeah, lots of notes have been written, so yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. How for you both? I mean, for yourself, as someone in business, for yourself as looking to set up a business, how important for you is it that Leeds Bid have put on an event like this?
I think it's really like special that we have this like intention and focus, particularly on like a woman like centered in business who has kind of set it all up herself from quite a young age, and it is like very inspiring for the next like generation of young women.
Absolutely. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because there was a fantastic feeling in the audience, full of young women.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So what's brought you along to Liffey 24 tonight?
The Tim Spector interview, yeah.
And what have you learnt from what you've heard this evening?
I'm a big follower of his work, so I find it really interesting. I suffer from IBS, so I've always been interested in learning about like gut microbiome and how it can shape our health. So it was like a really important conversation to listen to, because I don't think it's talked about enough, especially in the NHS. So it was just really interesting to learn more about that, and hopefully the more people that know about it, the more the message can be like spread and there's more awareness about it.
And there's a huge crowd that's kind of come along to hear that tonight. Do you think this is something that's kind of gaining a lot more of a following?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's gaining a lot of traction, and I'm hoping, the more people that listen to it will be more impacted by it and see the real benefits of, how like changing what you eat can massively impact not just your physical health, but your mental health as well. So, yeah.
So what's brought you along to Liffey 24 tonight?
Well, actually, it was put on the advert in one of the streets in Headingley, and I'm new to Leeds as well, so I thought, this is really good, something that I would want to go. And so me and my boyfriend just wanted to come and see this.
And was it what you expected?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's because of what's it called? So it's I don't know. He knows one of the speakers in there, and then who've listened to the podcasts, and he said, he'd want to go.
It's okay. What's the biggest thing you've learned from what you've just heard?
actually legislations and AI and how important it is to protect all of the users, and also about just being, that part of the humanity of us and being accountable of having to use AI as a tool, not the one to make decisions for us. So yeah, that's it. That's one of the good ones that I've learned about tonight.
So what's brought you along to Liffey 24?
We came to see Tim Spector. Me and my partner have both done Zoe before, so we were really interested to come and see what he had to say about it, pick up a few more tips, and to see the new book that he's got that's out, get a sneak preview of that.
And was it what you expected? Obviously you knew quite a lot already. Did it kind of live up to what you thought it would be?
Yeah, it did. I think, a lot of it was like you said, confirmed what we knew, but we also learned a few new bits and pieces as well, which is good. And the questions were really interesting, what people were asking. Things I'd not thought of before as well. So yeah, really good.
What's the biggest thing that you've learned, do you think, from hearing that?
I think just sort of like reiterating the impact gut microbiomes can have on your health, and people touched on things like fertility and alcohol and other impacts, and I guess I've sort of looked at it just from a point of view of like illnesses, so people asking about other things like that, it's kind of opened my eyes to something that I'd never really thought about before. So yeah, it's definitely sort of highlighted the wider impact that it can have on things.
P24 tonight.
So I was really interested in hearing more about gut health. I've been, adding kombucha and sauerkraut into my diet, but I just wanted to know more, and kind of trying to immerse myself into it because I do realise how important it is.
And what do you think is the biggest thing you've learned from what you've just heard?
The variety that's necessary, so the 30 plants and how that includes herbs and spices and nuts. I think that's so interesting to know, as it really lowers the barrier to entry for kind of embarking on such journey.
And there's so many people that have come to this event tonight. Why do you think it's important to have topics like this spoken about at this scale?
I think people are not aware of it and aware of how important it is and how much of our life it can affect. So educating people, not just the people in the audience, but educating and empowering them to then go and share that information with their peers and family and friends, I think is why we need more like this.
I just think communication in general, like education's half the battle. We don't get it at school. We don't always get it if we see a GP, etc., because they're not educated in it. So I think any event like this, just spread that message as far as possible, education.
The really, really good thing to take away from it is the way that people ask questions and the discursive nature opens your mind, because the way other people are thinking and the way in which he'll answer the question is not necessarily how he'll do it in the podcast. So that's utterly vital for Liffey 24.
So tell us, what's brought you to Liffey 24?
So I've been to previous Liffey events before. This is just my third year coming to them, and I've booked on one every night, so this is my second one that I've been to, yeah.
How does this compare to previous years that you've been?
It feels like a much bigger event this time around, especially with the art and the animations that's been going on and the advertising that I've seen. It's definitely like growing throughout the years, yeah.
And you've obviously seen a couple already, which are you kind of most excited for this year?
I mean, I was very excited to see Ryland tonight, Knuckle. I was fangirling the whole time. I just love each one of them. I couldn't say which one I prefer because I think they're all quite different in their own way, and I'm quite academic, and I just love all the science and stuff behind it all and the psychology of it all.
Apart from fangirling over Ryland, what have you learned tonight? What are you going to take away from it?
Just the reality TV isn't what it seems, really, but there has been a lot of work that goes on to, help the contestants on it, but also, as Ryland mentioned quite a bit, the onus is also on the contestants. It's a kind of a two-way stream that goes on, but there's so much reality TV now, and it is definitely going to continue to happen throughout the years, yeah.
Perfect. That was amazing. Yeah. So what's brought you to Liffey 24 this evening?
Well, it was my friend who decided to book us the tickets. We've been a couple of years on the track now, and I think it was just, we both have an interest in the media and also in different kinds of TV formats. Obviously Ryland's a bit of a pull as well, so lots of reasons why we came tonight.
And how was it? Was it what you expected?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I think it was good. I think the range of people that were talking on the panel obviously had different experiences of reality TV. It was funny as well. We kind of got a little bit deep at times, as well as sort of the fun parts of being on a reality TV programme.
And what are you going to take away from this evening?
What am I going to take away? I'm going to take away that reality TV is probably here to stay for quite a long time. It could get even more extreme, potentially, than it has done currently. That it's a really complex issue as well. And you've got to think about personal responsibility, you've got to think about production, you've got to think about who we are as audiences and what it is that we want, and whether or not all of those factors impact on what kind of TV we watch. And also a lot about social media as well, because that's where it often ends up in terms of discussions. So it was just like really contemporary issues, really, talking about who we are as a society and like what we like and why we like it, and maybe we don't always like the right things.
Perfect. That was amazing. So what's brought you two to Liffey tonight?
I just was really interested by the concept of the festival, and there was quite a few events that I had my eye on, but this one really caught my attention. I thought it had a really good panel, and it was just a concept that I was really excited to hear expert opinions about.
And what about yourself?
Yeah, basically the same. I kind of got, not dragged along, but I love just going to random events, and Reese here normally finds the stuff we do, so. And I like Rylands, so.
Who doesn't?
I have to come.
I know. Was it what you expected?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it was nice to have such a varied board of opinions on the panel. Some people I had more experience with, like, their background. Other people, it was my first time seeing them. So it was nice just to hear fresh perspectives and see different takes on the same subject.
Yeah. And what about you? What have you learned? What are you going to take away?
Obviously, I knew there was like bad aspects to reality TV, but I didn't know like to the extent. And but also the positives as well. There's a lot of positives, I think. Like people's careers come from this, and you know they have life-changing experiences.
Yeah. And why do you think events like this are so important?
I think it's definitely important to participate in local events in the city. Like, we're obviously not from Leeds, you can tell by the accent, but we've lived here for a long time and we like to get involved in the things that the city's putting on. And also it's just a way to have a fun, different night out and try something new. You know, it's not something that we're going to be able really to experience again, so it's nice to do something out of the ordinary. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Love this city. Yeah.
Yeah. What's brought you to Liffey 24 tonight?
So I think it's so important for women just to have that voice and just to talk openly about our beliefs and our rights and feeling equal.
What do you think you've learned from what you've just heard?
So it feels like it's so open and such a big diverse subject and topic. I think there's still so much to be said and to be heard, and I think it's like, yeah, as a woman, it's getting there, but we're still not there, do you know, especially with expectations. I think it's the biggest thing, you know, the expectations and feeling heard.
Speaking of expectations, was that what you expected? Was there anything that kind of surprised you?
Yeah, I think there was Carol Vorderman's incredible, isn't she? I think that kind of really opened my eyes on how much she's doing, which is great. It's great to see. I think from a perspective of what else could be done, I think there's more around the expectations of women. I think that more could be done.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. So tell us, what's brought you to Liffey 24 tonight?
I live really, really close, and I'm always looking at stuff that's on in the Playhouse, and there were so many cool talks. I managed to get like a last minute ticket for this, and I was really pleased because I love Carol and I love self-esteem. So
why do you think events like this are so important?
I think they're opening conversations and they're allowing like a spectrum of views to be heard, and I think that's so important in a world where we're getting more and more like polarized in terms of the media we're consuming and stuff like that.
Was there anything that surprised you tonight? Anything that you've learned that you maybe didn't expect?
It sounds awful, but like because of the topics that were brought up, obviously they were quite like feminist heavy, and it was lovely to see so many men being so like supportive and positive, which sounds awful to say, like I was surprised by that, but a little bit I wasn't. It was just wonderful to see. So yeah, it was a fab event.
Perfect. That's it.
Okay, so Rachel, you've just been in the event. What's going through your mind as you're walking out?
I really enjoyed the event. I've got a daughter with a diagnosis of autism. She was late diagnosed at 17, but I knew since she was 2
She had an assessment at 5 and an assessment at 12, and it was only really sort of COVID when everything hit the fan and it all went belly up really, that she actually got a diagnosis. So I think listening to the likes of Christine and Ellie sort of really bring it home to me that she wasn't alone, I'm not alone as a mum, and that we need to do better as neurotypicals. We need to do better for our neurodivergent community.
There was so much of that, wasn't there, today, about little things that you might not have thought about that could make such a difference for people.
Absolutely. I mean, I work in a special school with autistic children, and I'm thinking of the things that we do put in place for our children. They can, we try and make the best for them within that situation. Are we doing the same for the adults within, the workplace and within the wider community? There's so many simple things that we can do to make their lives better for them. That it's not hard. It's just about putting in reasonable adjustments to enable them to thrive. And I think sort of something that I've been saying, lately is, you wouldn't ask a fish to climb a tree, would you?
No.
And it's putting that in place again, isn't it? So, I've really enjoyed today. It's been really good, really good. Enjoyed it.
Oh, you were fantastic. You've just been in the event. What's going through your head as you're leaving there?
I think it was really, really informative. I think one of the things that I'm coming away with is I feel a bit sad, to be honest, which is probably not what you want to hear. But hearing in the Q&A about some of the challenges that people are facing with diagnosis.
People were so honest, weren't they, about their own stories?
Yeah, that's it. And the lack of support that's out there, especially for families and children, as well as undiagnosed adults. It was really difficult to hear, and it spoke to my own personal experiences as well. But what was brilliant about the panel was the diversity of experiences, the fact that it wasn't just autism and ADHD that was represented.
That was such a strong
dyslexia
message all the
and
way
dyspraxia,
through,
and raising that awareness of the co-occurrences that happen that are less talked about still in the media. And that was really hopeful, and there was loads of really useful information for everybody, and seeing so many people there as well was absolutely brilliant.
How important do you think it is for a city like Leeds that we've had? I mean, it was absolutely packed in there.
Yeah.
The big studio, the big theatre there. How important is it for us that we're having these open conversations?
I think it's really important. I think it's really important to have these conversations and spaces for them in as public a way as possible as well.
Yeah.
We've all heard the medium narrative about ADHD being a trend or autism being a trend and people chasing labels. But actually, giving people the opportunity to sit and hear from people who've had that lived experience, understand the challenges, and hear from the public as well about their questions and what they're dealing with is really useful. And I'm really hoping that we can do more and get that message out wider, because there'll be lots of people who wouldn't have come today, and it's how do we get that message out and have these conversations with people who aren't directly impacted at the moment by neurodivergence.
Absolutely. Because you started off saying you're kind of feeling quite sad, I just wanted to finish on one of the very positive notes I thought from the event was when people were saying, let's talk about the strengths that neurodiversity brings, not just the challenges, but all the wonderful, amazing strengths as well that it brings.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting that one of the questions from the in the Q&A was around, are there certain industries or places where people who are neurodivergent would be best suited working? And my instinctive reaction to that was, all of them. We should be everywhere, because we bring that different perspective, that different way of thinking, and that is valuable in every sector. But the challenge is obviously making it accessible, those environments accessible for everybody. So but it was brilliant, and thank you for the chat, because it's helped me feel more positive about it all as well. So
that's really good. Errol, you asked a really, really good question in there. You were asking about personal motivation and how to keep going when things are really hard, didn't you?
So everybody has an executive function, but if you're autistic or ADHD, it's dysfunctional, it doesn't work. And my question was you need to shower, to eat, you need to eat, you need to drink. But what do you do when you don't have that executive function in order to do it? Like, it's like, you know you need to do it and you're wading through like mud or you're hitting a blank wall. Like I say, like people when they're laying on the sofa and they know they need to do something. Most people that are lazy are just like, oh, forget about that. But people with autism and ADHD, they get annoyed by it because they know they need to do it, but they just can't do it.
Yeah.
I've got loads of hacks, but I always like to hear what other people's hacks are. So like I've linked up Google Home to my Alexa, my Google Home and Alexa to my Google Calendar. And on there, it's reminders. So I say, good morning. What is on my calendar today?
Yeah.
And she'll say, you need to shower today. You need to take your medication. Then at 1 o'clock every day, she goes off, eat lunch. Thing is, if I don't see people eating lunch, I don't realise.
Okay, yeah.
And then in the shower, I've got a Bluetooth speaker and like Disney songs playing. But it's going from a warm environment to cold to hot.
It's really hard, is it?
Then dry skin to wet skin to dry. You've got to think about the processes of why it's hard for you and realise that's the sensory issue. And then you've got to try and hack the sensory issue.
I mean, you were really honest about your own journey in there. That must have been really tough to stand up and say that because there was a lot of people in there today.
I work for a charity I still work with the charity, and I co-wrote training on autism, learning disabled and the LGBTQ community, and I actually delivered it to health and social care workers.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And we did it. We had an NHS slot where I delivered it, so I know about autism and I can speak in a room full of people. But I stuttered because there were so many people. But
I didn't notice.
I
did not notice the stutter.
I couldn't say the executive.
Oh, that's
bit.
right. But you got the person sitting next to you to say, which was great, and it was fine, and it was so wonderful how open you were, as I say, in there. There was loads of really good suggestions. You've just shared some with us here. How important is it to you personally that we have events like this and we talk about this so openly in front of so many people?
Well, people need. I did counselling, 2 lots of it, 14 sessions. Then I did CBT, which doesn't work for our type of thinking because it's for neurotypical thinking.
Okay.
I had to fight to get CCG funding to do autism-specific counselling.
Okay.
And we broke down the autism. And if my autism makes other people uncomfortable, that is on them.
It is.
And it's not on me.
That is not on you.
So having these events, I was sat next to someone who said that they thought they were interested in the subject, but they didn't really have the confidence to get the diagnosis.
Right.
And a lot of people don't have the privilege to go for a diagnosis. They don't have the funding.
There's a lot of talk about that today, wasn't there?
I was misdiagnosed as bipolar for 14 years. Right. And when I went for the diagnosis, they went, well, you've managed 32 years of your life. Why should we send you? And I said, why not?
And I'm so sorry you've had to live with that misdiagnosis for all those years. I'm really sorry about that.
That misdiagnosis of autism was masked by the bipolar, and actually it was autism, delayed sleep disorder, and anxiety, and probably ADHD. And events like this, you might come to it and think, I might be autistic, but I say it like this: you might have backache and swollen ankles. It doesn't mean you're pregnant.
No.
You either are pregnant or you're not pregnant. Just as autistic, you might share characteristics of autism, but you might not. But coming to events like this means that, maybe I am, and I'm going to go and talk to someone, and there's no shame in it.
No, not at all.
My friend I came with sat very quietly, and they wanted to ask a question about burnout, but didn't have the confidence. But if they talked about it, they got their answer answered. So coming to events like this is really, really important. It's really important, and I think everybody should come to it, even if you're not neurodiverse.
Yeah, and absolutely, you learn so much, don't you? For me, what you just said as well was really, I think that's a really right point. Fascinating that if someone is uncomfortable with someone else's neurodiversity, that's their problem.
Yes.
It's not the neurodiverse person's problem.
Yeah, you shouldn't be afraid to be who you are and ask. I did access to work, and I rang them every day to get that access to work. And in the workplace, when I did say I was autistic, my previous employer couldn't do the reasonable adjustments.
Right.
And then I work for a learning disability and advocacy charity, and they are 90% of the staff are autistic or neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And there is jobs out there. You just got to fight to find the one that fits. It's like trying on a lot of shoes.
Yeah.
You got to try on a lot of shoes to find the perfect pair. And once you've found that workplace that is inclusive, you don't want to leave.
No, and I'll tell you one of the other things that stuck with me, because I manage a lot of people in my life, and I love the bit where they were talking about some of the stuff can be quite simple. Sit down with someone at work and say, what helps you to work best? You know, that's such an open, general question. What do you need in order to work best? So simple and applies to us all. There were some really simple tips, wasn't there?
So at my work, we have an autism profile. So we talk about what is your autism means to you, what are my weaknesses, what are my strengths, and what do I need from you? And we send that, and that's on my profile at work. So when I've got a new manager now, I started a new role, and I sent it to him in an email going, this might help you. And he's like, okay, that's really helpful.
So tell me, you've been in the event, you're smiling. What's going through your head now? What are the one or two things that you're just really thinking about having been in the event?
Oh, well, I mean, I came with my sister and it was just so fantastic. We were just saying in there, like, we both filled up a few times. Like, it was just a really great, just very moving, quite emotive as well. I'm a primary school teacher, so when they talked about the education part, and Christine said some really nice things about how teachers work hard, and you know, I work with a lot of neurodivergent children, and I think what Tumi was saying about giving advice on trying to be inclusive of everyone and doing those sort of things, I'll definitely take that away from today.
He had a really strong message, didn't he, about the universality, that actually you don't try and pick out children who have got, you know, particular needs. You make that the way you do things.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for everyone, which is fantastic, and it's a great way of thinking differently in the classroom. So that was a big thing I'd take away, but also just like how supportive it was. Everyone at the end asking questions, feeling a safe space to talk about
because
that.
people were so honest, weren't they, with their questions? They were so honest, and there was a lot of people in that theatre.
God, massive. And we were just saying as well, like, it, you know, there were a few quite strong emotions, and actually people getting emotional at the end talking about their journeys. So it was just fantastic. We thoroughly enjoyed very much.
How important to you is it to have a festival like this that's having these kind of conversations and discussions?
Brilliant, and so kind of just forward thinking with all the different talks that are going on. We've been to a few, we're coming to one tonight. It's and also for it being so accessible for everybody, and the diversity and the range of talks and things you can get involved in has been ace. Really cool.
Charlotte and Dan, you've been in the event. What are you thinking about? What's kind of really stayed with you from some of the things that were said there today?
I think just the growing awareness and the conversation around neurodiversity, because I think it's come a long way in the last few years. So my daughter's autistic. I'm waiting to be assessed for both autism and ADHD. So it's just knowing that people are having those positive conversations as well, and not just looking at the negatives and the difficulties that people face. It's about being strength-based and celebrating the strengths that we've got.
That came through so strongly, didn't it? It was one of the wonderful messages I thought at the event, that lots of people will see neurodiversity as about challenges, but actually we should be talking about the strengths, the superpowers, the fantasticness of elements.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I followed Ellie and Christine McGuinness on Instagram for a long time, so it was really good to hear their views as well, and expand on sort of the conversations that they're having on social media, seeing it expanded.
What's going through your mind?
Well, I
after
get a
the
lot of
event?
information secondhand. I don't really do social media, so when I come to things like this, a lot of it's really new. So Dodds and Tumi are the man on the end ones. I'd not heard of them before, and a lot of what they said I felt was really positive, but really specific as well about how they've been successful. So I've always found conversations I have with people are about people with autism or ADHD or other things that have been successful and not needed support as such because they've found workarounds and ways through things. So I thought that was interesting, just that you can still identify that part of yourself even though you've been successful and you've managed and you've coped and things, it's still good to identify the part of yourself.
Yeah, and understanding yourself, the need for diagnosis, so you can understand yourself and who you are as a person.
You said yourself that you're waiting on a diagnosis. Did this event want you to have that discussion and consultation much more quickly?
Yeah, so at the minute I'm not doing the right to choose for myself. I have done that for my daughter and she got her diagnosis, so I think I'm going to look into that just so that I can have a better understanding of myself, really. I've sort of put myself on the back burner while I've been focusing on her, so I think it has made me realise that I need to prioritise that, really.
And for both of you, how important has it been that we've got an international festival like this that is thinking about all these different kind of ideas?
Oh, it's really important, isn't it? It's really important to hear the conversations being had and to hear the positive side of things as well. I'm really excited for when my daughter's older that we can bring her along to things like this.
Yeah, I thought that's huge, going in there and knowing they had to upsize the room as well.
Yeah.
Just things, knowing that there's that many people and
Yeah.
everyone's that engaged with it, quite encouraging, because you feel like you're on your own a bit sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice to know there's a big community around.
Especially like when you're not on social media and stuff, so you don't see all the people that are out there. So yeah, quite nice.
I bought the ticket for my mum tonight. I also came last night with some friends to see Rylan. He was amazing. And then the talk tonight was a little bit of a change of gears, but it was still really good. Yeah, lots of inspirational speakers.
Kind of, obviously the two talks very, very different. Why do you think it's important to kind of have that range of topics covered?
I think it's good to have different perspectives. I think sometimes with like panel talks, everyone's just sort of like nodding along and like agreeing with each other. So like it's good to have like people from all different walks of life talking about different topics and things like that. So yeah, and it's something for everyone, isn't it? So yeah.
And people that we've spoken to have talked about the questions at the end. You know, the talks have actually gone on a really long time because people have had so many questions. Do you think that sort of shows that these events are really important to Leeds especially?
Yeah, for sure. There was someone on the panel tonight from Leeds, like representing like a local co-op, which I think is really good because like it's great to have big names to like pull the audiences in, but like it's really good to have like local people on the panels as well. And yeah, people were fiery. Like last night you went to the Nile Rodgers one, didn't you? So like I think there's people from all different walks of life, especially like it's really needed in Leeds. So yeah.
What have you learned? What are you going to take away from Liffey?
Ooh, I'm feeling very inspired. I don't know what one thing in particular. I think probably from tonight's talk, it was just quite emotional. So like maybe just take that and like just reflect on it over the next few days.
I'm thinking like for you, because you're back in Leeds after 10 years or so in London, and I was thinking about you in terms of building community now that you're back here as an adult and finding a different way in life. So yeah, I was thinking there might be some housing options for you or something.
Yeah, true.
Not that I'm trying to get rid of you.
This was great. Goodbye. What's brought you guys to Liffey 24 tonight?
We've just come to see the can't remember who cares or whatever it was called. I'm not sure, I can't remember. Just because it was, my father was in care and just wanted to see who was everyone's stories. I've read Goldie's book quite recently about his upbringing and stuff, so it was quite nice to come and listen to it for yourself about everyone's different situations and how messed up it all is, to be honest.
Yeah. What are you going to take away from tonight? What have you learned?
That the system's pretty messed up, to be honest. The whole thing in it needs a lot of work, from knowing how us going through a few years ago certain situations where you want in specific care, having to jump through hoops to get there, but not actually getting what you need. It's just get put aside, or like they were saying in there, it gets put to an appeal.
Yeah.
Rather than if someone's diagnosed with something, there should be certain criteria, or they should be given certain things, blue badges or whatever, to enable them. But then to go through constant processes of it, like you were saying, pushing somebody in a wheelchair up to the doctors, and they're still not qualifying for certain criteria. So it's just, the whole thing is a bit messed up, really, and it needs a lot of work. And like they said, a total relook at it.
And they're really serious and quite heavy topics, some of them. Why do you think it's so important? Obviously, that the theatre was pretty much full. People are really keen to talk about this, aren't they?
think everyone can relate to it because everybody's had an experience of it.
Exactly.
They know it's coming. They think
Everyone's had to either a parent that's had to care day in, day out for somebody, or somebody who's caring day out. We've been part of it, doing that care, and it's suppose like they were saying today, it's like accepted that it is. You just do it, and you've still got to work and look after your kids and crack on, basically.
What's brought you to Liffey 24 tonight?
I've been to a few of the events this week. Every single one is so varied and interesting with some really incredible speakers. And this was a bit of a last minute attendance for me. I just thought that with what we're experiencing at the moment and the current atmosphere, I just thought it's really important to hear people who've been in these situations. And there's no one really better than Kate Adie to hear about her experience of war and see how we're going to go forward in really getting the whole information about the story and making sure that we're all as educated as possible to speak our minds and stand up for all the things going on in the world.
How does it compare to kind of some of the other Liffey talks that you've seen this week?
They've all been very different. I've seen Trust Your Gut, which was super informative and really light-hearted as well. And then I've seen the Carol Vorderman self-esteem talk yesterday that was so much fun, very relaxed as even though the topic was very hard-hitting. And this one was a really interesting mix of both of them, that you can see someone who is so witty. Kate Adie is such a hilarious person and sees so much of the goodness in the world and can really laugh and see the positives in such difficult circumstances. So this one was really informative but so hilarious at the same time.
What do you think you're going to take away from the last few days?
Oh, I have gone to see topics that I didn't know I had an interest in. Especially seeing stuff about gut health. It was something that I was aware of. It changes your views on like how you live your life. How I look at media and journalism, and how I can dissect that myself. How I can make myself healthier. All sorts of different topics that I didn't realise actually impacted my life and my interests. And I'm going away with a little bit more passion for them and hoping to involve myself in all of those areas, just myself now.
So tell us what's brought you along to Liffey 24 tonight.
Well, last year I attended with my daughter one with Davina McCall about women's health, and I thought it was absolutely incredible and so inspirational. So I brought my husband and my daughter onto 4 events this time.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
How have they sort of all compared? Because the events have been so different, haven't they?
Yeah, we loved the neurodiversity one today. Obviously, we loved Kate Adie. We saw Tim Spector, and we saw the one with Carol Vorderman about sensationalism and stereotypes. We loved that as well. I just think it's an incredible festival, and I'll come next year.
Excellent. What are you going to take away from this year, do you think?
Inclusion and celebrating everyone's strengths, that kind of approach. Yeah.
Why do you think, obviously you've come back for a second year to lots of events, why do you think events like this are so important in general, but especially for Leeds?
I think it's great to collect people with these great minds and experiences together, and to listen and learn, and then take your own bit of it back to who you're talking to.
Perfect. Yeah. That was great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. What's brought you along to Liffey 24 tonight?
I saw the event advertised, I think, on my Facebook page, or it might have been something that Niall Rogers, who I follow, had mentioned. And I thought, oh, that looks really, really interesting. So I bought the tickets back in May. And it's been absolutely brilliant. This is the 3rd night I've been here. It's a little bit difficult to decide which place to go into. I'd have loved to have seen Kate Adie tonight, but I got to see Kate Garraway talking about things. It's been absolutely brilliant. And the people that I've come with have also been totally overwhelmed with the quality of it. And the speakers, I'm thinking, Niall Rogers, are they going to have him on a big screen, on a video link? But no, he was there. And what an inspirational night that was. I think it was, had this like an evangelical feeling after hearing him speak. What a brilliant person.
And you had quite a unique experience of that night as well.
Yes, well,
which not many people did.
I've been a long fan of Nile Rodgers. I'm also a cancer survivor, and me and my friend came to see him in Leeds at the O2. I think it was before lockdown, so 2018, 2019. And I just sent a tweet to Niall, because I know he tweets quite a lot, to say, oh, we're the cancer ladies, we're going to come and see you tonight. Can't wait, it'll be so exciting. And then got a tweet back from Nile Rodgers saying, oh, hi ladies, that's so cool. Would you like to be our VIP guests? Would you like to come and dance on stage with us? I'm like, hell yeah. And it was one of the questions that I asked him actually on the night, was saying about how we got to do that, but the way that he was so grounded. He was on his own with just one other gentleman with him. He didn't have the entourage, he didn't have the security. We were around the back of the O2 in Leeds, just come out to meet him. He was so gracious, he was funny, he was really interested in us. We had our pictures taken with him. In fact, the guy that it was with took my phone, and he took the pictures for us, which is pictures I would, treasure. And so I asked him about how he felt in today's when so many people that have suddenly got fame have to have entourages and security and everything like that. And there's this one of the most important people ever in music. It's just him and this guy. How brilliant was that? He's so grounded. But when I said about meeting him at the O2 back then, he said, oh, I remember you. And I'm thinking, he probably doesn't, but what a nice thing to say anyway. But then I think he might have done. And so the rest of the evening, he kept looking at me, and at the end managed to go to the front of the stage and just say thank you to him, and he gave me a big handshake and a big hug, and it was wonderful. What an experience.
And what a unique experience you've had, and such a range of talks that you've seen this week. Why do you think events like these are so important in general, but especially for Leeds?
I think what's certainly come across to me is, from the audiences and the questions that have been asked, it's how lucky are we to live in Leeds? Not only do we get this kind of event provided for us, but what a great gang of people we are. Some things that people were saying in the questions were just absolutely wonderful. We could just solve all world problems if we had, obviously Nile Rodgers is, like I said to him, why president of the US. That's so reassuring to know that there are people here in Leeds that think, that care, that want to do something, are positive about things. And that has been a really big takeaway as well. And I can't wait till next year. But please don't book all the good things at the same time. I would have loved to have seen Kate Adie tonight, but I from personal experience, I wanted to go to the carers talk, which I'm very pleased that I did. But absolutely fantastic. It's been put on so well. Really impressed. So thank you. Thank you to the Leeds International Festival of Ideas. I've gone home with lots of them.